Here we go on our Friday edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. We are going to look back at OTAs. We were out there on Wednesday, but if you missed it, Mary Kay, Paul Hoynes, Doug Maurice, they did a special podcast that went up on Thursday, kind of comparing and contrasting the Trevor Bauer, Deshaun Watson situation. So we're coming back here a couple days later with our OTA observations from practice on Wednesday. A lot to get into, Mary Kay. Why don't you start us off? Give us something that you saw on Wednesday that stood out.
Well, I'm going to start off with probably the obvious with Deshaun Watson. I wrote about him yesterday. We all saw the same thing. He's an elite quarterback, and that showed even in 7-on-7s with no contact and 11-on-11s with no contact. He just moves with such, agility and such athleticism. And the ball, the ball just jumps off of his hand. It's a beautiful ball that he throws. He's got incredible arm talent. There were a lot of deep balls that he threw. It really looks to me like a lot of these guys that struggled last year with an injured Baker Mayfield are going to look a lot better this year. I think the tight ends are still going to be used a significant amount. They worked a lot on Deshaun to Amari Cooper yesterday when we were out there. And, it just looks to me like, it made sense what they were looking at in terms of just the football side of it, why they put their team and their community and everyone through the controversy and just the distraction of all of this. They were looking at that elite football player.
It just looked easy. Now obviously, look, we're talking about 7-on-7, 11-on-11. What I mean by that is like just when he threw the ball, It looked easy, right? And it's such a contrast to Baker because Baker's a smaller quarterback, and he really kind of needed to torque up to throw the football, just because of the way he was built. With Deshaun, it wasn't really like that, especially the deep balls. It just looked like it was really easy. The release was fluid. You could see every bit of, what is he, 6'2", 6'3". You could see he's just a more prototypical looking quarterback. Scott, what did you think of Deshaun?
Yeah, the smoothness, I think, really stood out, and just like effortless, the way he threw a lot of those deep passes. They did one drill where they just kind of took it 2 steps back, and it was trying to hit someone on a go route down the sideline. And it was, there was no heaving back and trying to get, it was just a flick, and it's like watching Omar Vizquel play shortstop, like just smooth. And he made like extraordinary things look kind of ordinary and just routine for him. And we're just talking about a drill here, but that's kind of like what watching Deshaun Watson play quarterback is. It looks a lot effortless, more so than, again, like you said, with Baker, a violent throwing motion for him. And that did show up in practices a lot, even though they're, not really big time throws that you're going to see.
Yeah, Ashley, your first impressions kind of seeing Deshaun on the field throwing the football to receivers for the first time.
Yeah, I think fluid is probably the best way to describe it. And like Scott said, last year, especially watching Baker Mayfield with the shoulder injury, like the way he had to force the ball to try to complete some of those deep passes, because even though it was his non-throwing shoulder, like we know that can still affect your throwing motion, especially for a guy of his size. So yesterday especially was really interesting to kind of see how much work him and Amari Cooper got as well, because I think going into OTAs and obviously when we get into training camp later on, how those two mesh and how they look in the offense, I think is going to be something that we're all watching. But watching him out there yesterday, it definitely was, I think, effortless on the field is a good way to describe it.
And then Mary Kay, when you sort of, obviously, you wrote about kind of the whole picture yesterday, right? So just aside from the throwing, right, we see him come out and give Anthony Walker the gift. What sort of sense did you get from guys as we talked to them and watching guys on the field with him, as far as how they were responding to having him there?
Well, I'll tell you what, it appears to me that it is so vitally important for Deshaun Watson to win over his teammates. He is trying really, really hard. And I think a lot of it comes naturally from what I've heard about him before as a person. Aside from all of these lawsuits, he's always been just a gym rat, a real team guy, somebody that rallies the troops around him, extremely generous. So as you mentioned, we saw him hand this Rolex box to Anthony Walker. Then I came to find out a little bit later that he's also donated $50,000 to Anthony Walker's father's high school program. His father was a high school football coach, not coaching anymore, but still working at the school, I believe. So he donated $50,000 to that Miami area high school program. And he's also buying Anthony Walker's suits for the entire season. And he came to find out that Anthony, has a little bit of flair to him. He's a little bit flashy when he dresses for games and things like that. So he wanted to seize upon that. Conversely, Anthony Walker did not want anything in return, wouldn't take any money. And these things came as a total surprise to him. So that, and then you factor also in the Bahamas trip, you can see that Deshaun Watson's really trying. And I think it's working. When we talk to Nick Chubb, and I use this in my headline, he said, we all love him, right? We all love him. And I thought, that's a pretty strong statement. They haven't even known him for that long. And so I think he's doing a really, really good job of making sure that these guys know he's all in. He's going to bring this team together as best he possibly can. And that he is committed to, team unity.